Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Unleashing Your Voice, finding the power of your truth, your song, your words, and most importantly, your story. I'm presenting this webinar today because it is something that is very close to my heart. It's a journey that I have also been on over the past, lifetime. Um, and some of the ways in which I have accessed different parts of my voice and becoming more of myself has been through the channels of sound and energy and being an artist. And you'll see here on this little mini bio, they've actually put the word singer. And that is quite a big thing for me to do. And I thought it was important to have this distinction here because this is something that I am still currently working on. For anyone who has followed my work, you've probably seen some of the art that I have expressed, and some people may have been to my sound sessions. But one of the things that I'm still working through is this idea of singing in front of other people, of sharing that side of myself, because for the most part, it's been very private in my expression, but it is something that is really burning to get out. But for certain reasons, I held myself back with it. I have my own blockages around that. But I really wanted to make this distinction today because this is a pivotal moment in my own journey where I have to claim that part of myself and I have to bring that through. So I'm by no means am I a finished article in this sense. I'm presenting this information today because these are things that have helped me and ways in which I know can assist other people to bring out their authentic voice. So, how do we access our own voice? Right off the top, it's just important to acknowledge that many of us in this lifetime have issues and have struggled with speaking our truth, speaking our own needs, and even sharing our story. And this can be presented because of a number of reasons in life. Not only is it our own belief systems blocking us, it can be our cultural belief systems and the society we were raised into, and even the family dynamics that we found ourselves in this lifetime. And not only that, but I truly feel that as a multidimensional lens, we could have other lifetimes where potentially our voices were either shamed, not heard. We could have been silenced. And there are potential lifetimes in which we were actually killed for sharing our truth, our voice, in whatever way that may have been, in whatever way that came to us in that lifetime. So this is why we can experience such fear, even pain. I know myself, I struggled a lot with my speech in my early years, something that I talk about openly, and I really found it challenging to understand the English language, to grasp spelling, to really integrate myself into school life when I was young. I was even held back in a couple of classes because of what felt like to me a sort of dyslexia, and I think is it dyspraxia with the numbers. I really struggled to look at numbers and make sense of them, and letters were the same. So it took a lot of extra tuition and assistance from teachers, especially to bring it out of me. And that in itself, it still took so many years. But being actually authentic in my voice and expression that has only literally been happening in the last 4 or 5 years as I've been moving through the deeper emotions and the things that I felt as a child and bringing them to the surface. So it's definitely not, it's for me anyways, it's probably been my biggest the biggest part of my journey in this life has been uncovering my voice and my truth and understanding who I am on a deeper level, and the experiences that I had, how they shaped me and how they shaped what I thought about myself. So, yeah, it's really important to look at those things from a wider perspective and see the areas and the things that you might have picked up on that really weren't yours. So, some of the benefits of using our voices, sharing our truth, our story. One of the biggest things that has come through me doing this and being on this journey within myself is that my communication skills have developed massively. As someone who I wouldn't even be able to do public speaking, I wouldn't have done a presentation like this. I used to really trip up over my words, and if anyone's ever experienced giving a presentation and the mouth just goes so dry, that was me in school. And I dreaded, I know in school, a lot of the times we had to go around in like alphabetical order and maybe give a statement or read from a book. And I would just be that sat there so nervous about the time when it would be me and I would like, I know my voice would break. I just felt so insecure about sharing or speaking out loud. It was, yeah, it was such an intense feeling. Um, but breaking through those barriers and being, especially in the career path that I had before I started doing what I'm doing now, they actually initiated me so massively into building my confidence and speaking out loud. Of course, it was more in an office setting. I used to basically be a video producer, and I had to direct and edit scripts, and basically, yeah, I was in charge of a small team, and I would often have to give presentations and give team directions on days that we were filming. And I didn't realize at the time, but how that was pushing me out of my comfort zone all the time, and it was stressful. But I started to ease into it, and I actually found a lot of, I don't want to say joy because I was still quite fearful at that time, but I could see that I was developing my communication skills. And actually, I know I'm a very good communicator, and I think I always was, but it wasn't really through my voice. I used to communicate a lot through my art and through drawing and these kinds of things. But now I say I have very good developed communication skills, and this comes from going through those motions and unblocking those parts of us that are afraid or have been shamed. So another area that just brings so much joy, it will raise your happiness. You will feel happier in yourself because you're actually sharing the parts of you that maybe haven't been shared. When you have like a really deep conversation with somebody and you can openly and honestly just be raw, you really feel it. You're energetically moving stuff out of your body that may have been stuck there for quite some time. And it's really liberating. So, in that liberation comes this feeling of more happiness. You're expressing yourself, you're allowing any limitations to not blind you anymore. And this is how we begin to raise into our own personal power. And we begin to create lives that are based from our truth and not through distortions of what we thought we were and all the things that might have been holding us back. We can now begin to shape a life that truly is coming from our own power within. And of course, with all of that, one of the best benefits of all of it is you begin to heal. And you're not only just healing yourself, your own template, but you're healing generations of people, your ancestors, your lineage that have come before you that may not have had a voice. We are so lucky in a way that we live in an age where we can do things like this, where we can have a platform, we can make a podcast, a blog, even just speaking with neighbors on the street. We have a freedom to express ourselves. And that's something that maybe we take for granted, but some of the generations before us, they didn't have that. So we're doing the work of clearing not only our own template, but our lineage that came before. So some of the ways to begin working with your voice is to recognize where your blocks are to self-expression, identifying parts of yourself that basically have been shut down. Maybe you were hurt in the past. Maybe you received some feedback that really knocked you. Or perhaps you just grew up in an environment where you felt isolated and invisible. And there then becomes parts of your psyche that develop these coping mechanisms to almost try and keep you safe, which this is my experience, is that that's what I'm working through, is finding those parts of myself that felt so alienated and alone, and showing them, holding their hand and bringing them to the light of myself, of my core self, and giving them the space. And it's not to attach too much to the stories, but it's just to compassionately witness where in your body, where in your psyche have you been hiding parts of yourself because they might have been suppressed or hurt or shamed. And again, we can take this to a multidimensional level because we are multidimensional beings. And there might be areas of lives that you've felt something. I know a lot of women, especially today, carry the witch wound, where we had beautiful beings who were herbalists, who were healers. And of course, we know the stories that when Christianity and other religious ideas came along, it tried to eradicate the natural connectedness we had to the earth and being those healers. And this is not just, for women only. Men share in this too. There were many forms of this expression and many ways in which it was nearly eradicated from this space. And now we're in a time when people are awakening to this and we're beginning to heal the stuff that happened before. So ways in which you can work with this as well is to tune into your dreams, because your dreams are such access points to your inner workings, your unconscious and your subconscious levels, and see if anything comes up. You can set the intention to receive messages from your higher self and to see in the dream space areas in which you might need to tend to. And the positive outcome of claiming your voice's power is you begin to claim your truth, and you can start to set goals for yourself that really align with the values that you hold as a person and what you want out of your life. And the more you begin to claim your truth and speak your needs, the whole field that you exist within rearranges itself, and you'll notice that you'll begin to have much more ease with your connections, with the stuff that happens in your life. And it also allows you to really hold yourself in a manner of integrity And if something or someone is just not aligning with your vision of what you want in life, you have the power to say, thank you, but I stand in my truth, I stand in my vision, and you keep moving towards that. It's such a liberating experience to be able to do this. And it's one of the biggest things that I have seen and witnessed in my own life, especially over the past few years when it came to, family dynamics. I am now able to actually be myself and speak freely, even when I know that potentially what I say could ruffle feathers and people may not agree with my perception of the world. But for me, it's my truth. And I know when I'm abandoning myself and how I feel in my body, and you begin to know that you just can't do that to yourself anymore. You came here to be this unique being that has something to share and to create, and it's so in your expression to just speak your truth. It doesn't mean you have to go around and say things that could hurt people, but it's just you have a responsibility to be in tune with your feelings and express them in a way that doesn't abandon who you are. Other ways in which you begin to notice this change is you know your worth. You can recognize your emotions and you learn how to deal with them within yourself. And you just know then how to, your boundaries. You know what you can tolerate and what you won't tolerate. Now, this I'm speaking to aspects of my own experience with, like, for example, people pleasing and wearing masks with different people. People pleasing puts you in a position where you're you're placing your own truth, or you're not really living from a truthful space in you. There's some sort of fear that is blocking you, and in order to maybe feel love and feel like you belong somewhere, you put up with things that you just put up with behaviors that you don't really want in your life. And when you begin to know your worth, this is when you can stay in your stance of power. No, I might have tolerated that in the past, but I will no longer tolerate this. And I know my worth, and to move away from experiences or people that don't see that or that overstep their boundaries. It's okay to let people go, and just know that if you're standing in your truth coming from your heart, that is all you need to do. And then naturally, this self confidence begins to grow, and you will find that you attract people that really elevate that sense of self worth and that confidence within you. And to go for experiences, or to go for a job, or go for setting up your own business, or even sharing your art, whatever it is, you start to feel this like fire and drive of, I can do this. Even if the little fears and the doubts still creep in, which they do, you can move through it, because you're starting to expand your own field and your own awareness. And as you do that, you just have this feeling of, even if this scares me, I can still do this. If it's something that you really want. And I do feel that if it is something you want and you feel slightly afraid, that's a good indicator, because you feel really strongly about this. And I think that's your soul is pointing you towards something of like, yes, go and do this. It's going to push you out your comfort zone. And that is when we grow. That is when we grow. We don't grow sat in our comfort zone. We can sit there for a little while, and trust me, I have. Trust me, I have been in there. But there comes a point where I know I can do more than this. I know that I'm here to do more than this. And I'm ready to take that next step. And then, it doesn't mean you don't fall back into the comfort zone for a little while and reconfigure and recalibrate. That's okay. But the more you do this, the more confidence and the more power you have to say, this is what I want out of life, and I'm going to go for it. So it's really important to, again, I say this quite often, is probably the most important thing, is to be with yourself and to really understand who you are inside and what things have been driving you. Where have those limiting beliefs come from? Especially around our voices, we might have heard something or took someone else's response to us when we were younger really inward and internalized something that it wasn't actually to do with us, but it might have been that person was having a really bad day and they might have said something to you like, oh, that's no good, or your spelling's no good, or, or I don't want to hear this right now. Or a classic example of, raising children, which I have a lot of grace and compassion for our parents who had to work and come home, raise a family, cook dinner, all that stuff. Is, sometimes we might have been told just be quiet or shut up. I don't like shut up, but I definitely heard it a few times. But I understand in the heat of the moment, our parents may have been stressed or the caregivers around us might have been stressed. But the thing is, in a child's psyche, we can take that so deeply within ourselves and we store that within our body. And that's how we just get so stuck energetically as we get older and we don't trust our voice. So make time for yourself to actually think about things that you experienced and ask yourself the questions about why you feel a fear of expressing yourself, why you don't go for something or share your truth or be honest with people. Are you afraid to hurt their feelings? Are you trying to are you the caregiver in the family or the peacemaker in the family? Where have you abandoned yourself for your truth? If somebody hurts you, are you able to express in a healthy way, this actually hurt me? And it's not to be attacking, it's just to say I feel hurt by this, and to have those conversations. Are you able to do that? Are you able to meet people on a deeper level? And if you're not, ask yourself why that is. Keep a journal. Writing things down is such a healing way of actually seeing how our minds work, seeing where our patterns are. And also, I mentioned earlier about dreams. It's so key to have something where you can write your dreams down and see how your subconscious is working and see what little messages or key codes that you might be getting from the dream time to show you where those stories lie and where you can begin to heal those aspects of yourself, of your psyche. And really great to find ways to, yeah, ground yourself and self-care aspects as you work through this stuff, because you'll be moving emotions and feeling things that you might not have expressed in all of your life. There were certain things that I never spoke about that I experienced in this lifetime, and it was only working with a trained therapist that I began to express some of these things. And these are things that I kept inside of my body for such a long time. And after each session, I had to literally go to my bed and lie down and rest for a few hours, because emotionally I was uncovering just so many layers that have been trapped. And so you might need to just rest more. Maybe it would help to do some breath work, some gentle breath work, movement, put on some music and just dance, move your body, create some art, Even walking. Walking is so easy to do, and you can really feel and move through anything that has come up whilst you do these practices. Of course, you have meditation as well. So, there's just a few examples of things that you can do to take care of yourself as you go through this process. So, ways we can cultivate our connection to our voice. Finding ways to create. Now, on here, I've put write stories, poetry, music. You can even do like a life blog, speak these things out loud. I think it's really good sometimes to hear our own voice. And maybe there's things that you pick up on that you're like, huh, now I've spoken it. I didn't realize that. I sometimes just sit really deep in myself. And if I feel a certain emotion, I might just express that in that moment. It's not always, it is really good to do this with other people as well. If you have somebody that you you're really close to and you connect deeply with, and they could just hold the space for you whilst you speak something out, that is so healing. There is obviously a lot of work that we can do within ourselves, but we do need connection and we do need to be seen. There's parts of us that have felt so isolated. And if you can actually allow yourself in connection with somebody you trust to just speak something, maybe from the past, maybe from today, it really opens you up and you'll feel the energy moving inside of you. And another thing that does that is singing. Singing, it doesn't ever, some people say, oh, but I can't sing. Everybody can sing. Everybody has a way of singing. And you can actually build so much strength in your vocal cords, which can assist then with moving energy out of your throat and out of your mouth. Singing is so powerful. It's something that we always did as human beings. Probably the earliest thing we ever did as a community, as a connection, was to sing together. And it doesn't matter if there's words, even if it's just a hum, it's a powerful way to begin to heal this beautiful instrument that you are, this chamber of your body, and move energy out, move it out. So if you can sing in the shower, sing while you're walking, just tone, these are such powerful ways to build that connection to your voice. And as I said, keep your journal, track your emotions, ask questions, and maybe wait for the answer. Sometimes I like to write questions out and I just sit, and what first comes to me, I either speak it out loud or I write it down. It's almost a way of not letting the logical mind step in first and having your reasoning to say why this is right, this is wrong. If you just go straight in down into yourself and then allow the answer to come, you can actually see some really key things that are working within yourself that want to be expressed. And practice listening to those parts. So you might ask yourself a question, you could be really surprised by the answer. Try not to judge what comes, just listen and observe and find that space within yourself to hold the compassion for whatever part of you is speaking. And even if you're like, that, what are you talking about? Just allow it to just be spoken. That's all you need to do. And create time and space to do this. Create a connection with yourself away from other people, away from distractions. Turn your phone off, put it in another room. Go out into nature. Find a space where you feel really comfortable and at ease. And begin to journal or to speak or to sing or to move. And just connect. Find places of support from other groups or places of expression. So, for example, I many years ago, I joined a writers group. And at that point in my life, I was just like, I knew I wanted to write. I knew I wasn't great at writing, but there was just something in me that said, you need to express. So I got invited into this writing group, and it was just a mixture of so many different ages and backgrounds. And the one thing that I really gained from this was just this feeling of support, this feeling of being able to share my poems and to just receive the feedback, but more importantly, just I knew everybody was holding that space and was encouraging one another to share. And what came out from being in that writers group was actually some of the biggest and most amazing accomplishments that I've had over the last few years, because I had opportunities to not only do an art exhibition, I also was on stage, which, my goodness, I can't tell you how scary that was, to put myself up on a stage and be part of a play again. Even though when I was younger, I loved drama, I wanted to be an actor or actress, but just so many things in life knocked my confidence to the point where I was so insecure. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want eyes on me. I would literally shake. I would shake so much if people were looking at me, and I felt so uncomfortable. So to actually have this experience of being on the stage and going through so much fear, I can't even tell you how much fear was in my body. And I was still shaking. I was absolutely shaking like a leaf, but I still did it. I can't tell you. I nearly bailed at the last moment. I was nearly going to walk off the stage and say, I can't do this. But there was like this energetic hold that was keeping me there, saying, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was completely exhausted for about 3 days afterwards. But I was so proud of myself for facing that fear. And now I'm just looking for more ways which I can write plays, where I can be on the stage, where I can speak, where I even do public speaking. Like, I actually want to do that now. In astrology, we have a Chiron placement, which is called the wounded healer. Now, this placement usually occurs somewhere in our chart where it's like the biggest wound that we've faced in this life, the most challenging thing, the thing that you really need to keep working on in this whole lifetime to, and not necessarily even overcome, but just to make peace with it, and to know that it probably will flare up at many occasions. It normally shows us something that happened in our early years. And for me, mine was actually in Taurus, and it was in my 10th house. And Taurus represents the voice and the throat, and the 10th house is our career. It's our career area. And for me, I just know that sharing my voice, singing, being publicly speaking is this insane call that I keep feeling in my body, yet it terrifies me. But I know that's what I'm meant to do, which is, another reason why I'm doing these things, these webinars, and doing my podcast, because I just feel that burning energy that this is what I'm meant to do. So if you can, if you have questions about that, about your chart, you can ask me, but you can also look up these things and investigate for yourself where your Chiron placement is. I just wanted to add that, because it's such a big key code for moving through this life and understanding where in life you got wounded. And it's relevant to me, of course, because it represents the voice in my case. So yeah, I just wanted to share that as well. And your voice absolutely matters. Every single one of us has come here for a reason. Every one of us is connected to the source within, and we all have our beautiful, unique, challenging ways of expressing ourselves. That's what we're here to do. And so becoming aware of your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings is the first step in liberating yourself, liberating your voice. As you begin to unearth the stories that have been held within you, you'll start to feel this profound shift towards authentically showing up, authentically being yourself. And like I said earlier, no longer abandoning yourself when it comes to dialogue with other people, with, your in your job, with your family. You just know, you feel it. You can no longer abandon yourself. There will be times that you might fall back into old behaviors and patterns. That happens. I still experience that, of course, but you just feel it. You're like, I can't do this to myself anymore. I have to free myself. So your voice matters. It really does. And when you feel those emotions and those feelings, I know for myself, I spent so much of my life avoiding avoiding feeling because it felt so enormously overwhelming. And I know when I was younger, anyways, I was told I was too sensitive. I heard that so much. I was too sensitive. And I know then I kind of dialed down everything. And just as soon as I had the opportunity when I was older to just drink alcohol, I just started drinking and I would numb everything. I did not express myself. I shut myself down. I dimmed myself. And I just tried to fit into this world because this world kept telling me I was too sensitive. When I was younger, I would cry, I would laugh, I would jump for joy, I would sing. And there were so many times when the external world told me, don't do that, or you're too loud, or you're too this, or why do you cry? And all these things. So as I started to tune into that, when I quit drinking 4 or 5 years ago now, then I had this freaking avalanche of emotions and feelings of everything. My whole body that I'd been holding inside of myself started to come out. And I still have moments, even yesterday, where I had a kind of meltdown, emotional meltdown. I still have those moments because when I let myself go, it can be overwhelming. And I know maybe to other people, they'd be like, oh my gosh, what is going on with her? But I'm moving the energy out of my body. Emotion is just energy. We attach names to it. If we're crying, okay, I must be feeling sad. If I'm feeling depressed, we just give things names, but it's just basically like either stuck energy or moving energy. And if you've spent so much of your life trying to contain your emotion, and you just begin to make yourself sick and your body has all these ailments, we have to move through it. And we have to get okay with sharing and expressing those things and being a space for other people to do that. And the more you do that, trust me, the more people feel safe with you and they also want to express because you're reflecting back. Everything is reflecting back to you. And it just opens up this whole channel of people that are now able to be a compassionate witness and to also share from their heart, from their truth. And that is such a beautiful and liberating thing. And if more of the world actually partook in it, we'd be in a much more harmonious place. So, yeah, don't ignore your feelings. And if you're someone like me that actually struggled, I just want to shout out to people because I quite often heard, especially through romantic connections, what's going on with you? Tell me now, or even with my parents. And it took me a lot longer to process things. I'm a lot slower in that sense to understand why I was feeling emotional, what might have triggered the thing. I would have to go away, otherwise, I would explode because if you try and push me for an answer, I wasn't ready to give an answer. So, if you need more time to walk away from a situation and just be with yourself for a little while and understand what is actually going on, do that. Don't be pushed into something that you're not ready for. And I always would come around maybe in that same day, maybe in a few days, when I actually digested something. And then I could say, okay, I know now why I was upset. I felt like this, or on that day this happened and I didn't realize how it affected me, or something from the past came up and you triggered something that I hadn't thought of or dealt with for a long time. Take ownership of how you are. It's not the people mirroring and triggering you. It's you that has these perceptions, and only you really can figure that out and take responsibility for your behavior and the actions you take, and just be so kind to yourself. It's like with me and my puppy, I've had moments where I felt so exhausted and so, yeah, just caught in a weak moment where I've exploded in anger, and normally there's nothing wrong with healthy anger. It's good to state our boundaries, and it's good for showing people, where our line is. But if it's unhealthy, and it has been sometimes with the puppy, I yeah, it has caught me off guard. Um, and there are moments like that where I'm like, oh, I really need to feel love for myself in that moment, because it's not the truth of who I am in that at that time. It was me projecting some sort of fear, and the puppy activated that, and there's moments in life where that happens, and it's okay. We're still human, and we're learning how to move through all this stuff, so be gentle on yourself and kind when you need to be. And yeah, just more different ways to practice. I put sing again here because I'm just trying to hone in that message that singing is so, so powerful, so, so powerful. And it can really help to open up your energy channels and move blockages and stagnation within your body, even through humming. Such a good practice. If you can do some humming in the morning and the evening. I like to do toning as well. Um, if you don't know how to do that, check out some videos on YouTube. So, so powerful. And yeah, sing your song, sing your song. Try something new. This is a really, really crucial one, because in order for us to grow and come out of our comfort zones, we need to try new ways of doing things. And it might not just be try something new as in, do a new activity that you wanted to do. Yeah, do that, because it will build new neural pathways within your brain, and it will show your nervous system that you're able to go into new environments and handle and build resilience within your nervous system. But also try something new as in, try a new way of talking to maybe your mother or your father or your family or your friends. Instead of maybe getting defensive over something they might say, ask a question. Okay, why am I getting like this, or why has that triggered me? And open up a dialogue. Open up a compassionate dialogue as two human beings to understand potentially why this misunderstanding in communication has arisen. So often, and myself included, I would either take that defensive mode or I would take that attacking mode. And that only the only real thing that ever happened from that is I would just walk away and either ignore that the conversation ever happened, or just build resentment. If we want to take humanity to a higher level, we need to open up the space between us to understand where we can meet each other in our fears, in our projections, and say, hey, what's really going on here? What's really under the surface? Do you need support? What, or ask the question, what do you need in this moment? What do you need? Perhaps it's just someone that needed to be listened to. Perhaps it was just someone's way of saying, I need help with this. I'm overwhelmed. When when that cracks, when you crack that moment with somebody, you feel in your heart, oh my gosh, I care for you. I hold you in my heart. You know, it's such a different way of relating to people. And I know myself, for too long I was in the defensive attack mode, or ignoring, and just classic example, when I was younger, I would just storm off into my room, slam the door, and think someone was an asshole, you know? But actually, it's my reaction. I'm in charge of my reaction. No one else is. And now I have to try and find ways that actually bring a higher resolution to conflict. And to resolve conflict with other people is such a opening experience, and you can actually go deeper into your connection with somebody and allow the humanness of all the shades of everything that we've carried, and you just you meet people on a deeper level, and that actually brings you closer. That's how we establish stronger connections with our fellow human beings and animals and everything. It all reflects back. And if you need support with this, again, we're not meant to do everything in isolation. We need support at times, and there's things that we might have buried inside of us, and we might not actually know how to access them. So if you need to go and speak to a therapist, a trained therapist or psychologist or anything like that, even doing things such as joining a group, finding local groups that you can be part of. One example is, I'm in my local community, we have a hiking group, which initially started as a hiking group, but then it is expanded into so many more areas, which is amazing. But one of the things I really took away from that is, of course, one, you're outdoors in nature, which is my home. I I love it. And two, the really surprising thing is, each time I stepped away from a hike with these, basically strangers, I knew a couple of people, but it would always be a group of people that I hadn't met before. And you just end up through the 2 or 3 hours of hiking speaking to nearly every person. And every time I came away from those things, I felt like something had been liberated, either through myself or with the people I was with, or even the land, even the animals in that area. It just felt so healing. And it's like you strip away all of the identity and everything else. I know you meet people on a level and they say, oh, what do you do? And all this kind of stuff. But then you just go deeper and you express things that maybe you haven't told. Maybe you speak about your husband who really annoyed you that week. But, it's like you have people that are there listening, and they're sharing in a moment with you, and you honestly feel so good. So if you don't have groups like that, why not start one yourself in your local area? Be that person to begin that journey, and you'll meet more people will start gravitating towards that. And you can even do something online as well, if you're not if you're in a rural area or something like this. But be the person maybe to start that, you know? Don't wait for somebody else if it's not something that's available to you, or if there's something that you feel you'd like to do but you don't see it anywhere, create it, start that. And the last thing I have here is share your work. Share your work, share whatever it is. Is it your art? Is it your baking? Is it debating? What is it? What is your passion? What can you share with the world? Are you a really good um, gardener? Do you know a lot about herbs? What is your knowledge? We're here to share in this life. That's why, your voice is so needed, because we all have our little key codes and pieces of this reality that create the whole of this reality. We are all connected. We are all part of the source. And the more we share and support each other and hold each other, the more we will see such big changes in this world. And you are absolutely a part of that. So I'm here championing you on to break out of your comfort zone, and I'm doing the same. And yeah, find the thing that you want to share. and put yourself out there. And like I say, if you have to fall back into the comfort zone for a little while after you do that and rest and recalibrate, absolutely do it. But you're doing it. So, yeah. Well, that is it from me, Wild Dandelion Studio, Siobhan. And yeah, of course, you can always reach out to me on Instagram. My website is there as well. Yeah, it's actually still named in the old way. I need to change that, but it's currently dandelionholisticservices.com. And of course, on Instagram, Wild Dandelion Studio, and you can follow me on there. I also have a podcast on Spotify, and I have stuff on YouTube, which, if you go to the Instagram page, you will see the links for all of that stuff there. So, yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And if you have any reflections or questions, ideas, feedback, whatever it is, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And I will see you next time. Much love to you.